Hey there, I'm Amy from thecrazycraftlady.com. Next time you're at the dollar store, grab a couple of pizza pans. I'm going to show you 4 different ways to make door hangers that are perfect for spring. For this craft, I was inspired by these seasonal garden flags that they sell at Dollar Tree. They come in a variety of different styles. So I just started with my pizza pan and some little 15 millimeter wooden half beads. I order them on Amazon in bulk. I just dry fit them in place around the edge of the pizza pan so that they would all be evenly spaced. And then I went back and added a little dab of E6000 glue to secure each little wooden half ball in place. It takes a minute, but I think it makes a really cute little bobbin edge detail there. And then I just grabbed my plain white Rust-Oleum chalk paint and gave a base coat over the whole project. I use a flat 1-inch paintbrush, and it's a little tricky getting in between all of the little wooden balls there, so just make sure you brush at all angles, up, down, left, right. You'll see me adding a little spritz of water. It just helps get a smoother application with chalk paint. Sometimes it gets a little thick and the brush drags, but if you spray a little water, you get a smoother finish there. And then once that white chalk paint had dried, I just went and added a coat of Mod Podge. This is matte Mod Podge, which is usually my go-to finish. You don't need to apply it over the little wooden beads, just the center inside of the pizza pan there, but a nice generous coat. Make sure you get full coverage and then let that dry. So then here's where you add in your little flag. And this fabric, I was afraid when I cut it into a circle was gonna fray. So my workaround on this was I grabbed a sheet of freezer paper, I flipped the flag over, and I applied a coat of Mod Podge all the way around the back. I didn't really do the center, but I just did the general area of where I would be cutting when I cut it down into a circle. But just apply all that Mod Podge and let it dry, and that way when you cut it, it doesn't fray. So then I laid my little flag over the back of the pizza pan. I added a couple loops of Scotch tape to secure everything in place. And then I just grabbed a Sharpie and I traced around the edge of the pizza pan. From there, I was able to cut just inside the Sharpie line and nothing frayed, and I had perfect crisp edges all the way around my circle. And then I'm going to use my heat press method, which I use on a ton of Mod Podge crafts. Just center your little cut flag piece. Grab a piece of parchment paper to protect the fabric. I actually cut this one a little bit smaller because my flag was a little bit wrinkled from being folded in the package, so I wanted to start in the center and smooth my way out so I didn't get any wrinkles or bubbles. I just used my mini heat press. If you don't have a mini heat press, use an iron with no steam. Then start in the center, work in sections, and smooth out towards the edge of the pizza pan until everything is secured down. The heat reactivates the Mod Podge so that the fabric piece attaches smoothly to the pizza pan. And then I decided to add a little bit of color, so I just grabbed my Waverly yellow chalk paint and a 1-inch paintbrush. And once again, in between all the little wooden balls, I painted at all different angles, kind of in a pouncing motion. When you hold the paintbrush at all different directions so you get complete coverage inside and in between all of the little wooden balls there. And then to cover that little edge piece, that little lip between the rim of the pizza pan and the cut flag, I just used a smaller fine point paintbrush and I painted all the way around the edge of the pizza pan there. And then I wanted to hide the seam between the painted surface and the fabric flag surface. So I ordered this on Amazon, I'll link to it. It's like this vine ribbon, and I think it's kind of fun. So I just did the tiniest dabs of hot glue with my fine point hot glue gun all the way around the pizza pan just to cover up that seam and give it a more finished look. And this way you don't have to cut a perfect circle or make sure that your circle is perfectly centered when you apply it. By adding a little border, it gives you a little bit of wiggle room and some grace, I guess. And then to finish it off, I hung it with a piece of jute rope from Dollar Tree. I wrapped it with that same ivy ribbon, which I thought made a really cute little look. You just secure it at both ends with hot glue, and then secure the rope ribbon combo to the back of your pizza pan with hot glue as well. Just make sure it's centered and that the rope ends are evenly spaced before you flip the pizza pan over and hot glue with those rope ends. And here's my bright, cheery pink and yellow spring door hanger. For this craft, I started with two of my go-to craft supplies, and that's a pizza pan and a Dollar Tree peel and stick faux tin tile. I just traced the pizza pan onto the tin tile, and then I cut quite a bit inside my traced Sharpie line. I have heard that you can use the splatter screens from the kitchen aisle at Dollar Tree, and that matches the inside of the pizza pan. I just don't have one, so I did my best. It wasn't the greatest, but it made it work. And then you have to peel off that adhesive backing because it's only secured around the four edges, so it'll fall off. You can't use the adhesive backer. You got to use glue. Sorry. I feel like once a week get a question about why do you peel off the adhesive backing? It's because it's only secured around the perimeter of the square, and so once you cut it, it falls off. But then I just secured my cut tin tile piece with a little bit of E6000 glue. Use whatever glue you like, just maybe not hot glue because it will melt the plastic. And then smooth that right down into place. And then it's time to paint. So I did a base coat with a flat 1-inch paintbrush, or you could use a pouncer brush with plain white Rust-Oleum chalk paint. And it doesn't have to be perfect coverage because we're going to do kind of a layered, more rustic finish on this. Just because there are so many details, sometimes it can be a bit tricky getting complete coverage on these tin tile pieces. But I let the white paint dry, and then I used my folk art, it's either chalk or matte paint in the color Sage. So just like a soft, muted, neutral background color, and a pouncer brush once again. Don't need perfect coverage, but just cover like the whole thing and the edge of the pizza pan. And then I let that dry, and then my final layer of paint is a bright teal paint, and I like to use, for stuff like this, just a little cut piece of a clean dish sponge, and you can just kind of brush it over the raised edges of the details of the tin tile. I did a combination of like a brushing motion and a pouncing motion, and I felt that gave me like the best texture, but depending on your embellishments, you could use whatever paint color you like. And then I just simply added a piece of jute rope from Dollar Tree, hot glued that to the back of the pizza pan at each end to make a hanger. And then it's time to add your embellishment. And I was really excited because they have these little garden hanging metal signs. Sometimes they're on stakes, sometimes that you stick in the ground, and sometimes they're hanging. Pick whatever you like. I grabbed this little mason jar, and I disassembled the welcome from the mason jar. There was a little chain connecting it. I just used my wire pliers there to remove the chain, throw the chains away, but you're going to keep both the welcome and the mason jar. So stick with me and you'll see how this works out. So I grabbed some yellow and pink faux flowers from Dollar Tree. There's always a ton of options. I just cut those stems off, and I added 2 layers. So my first row of flowers was pink, and I had those down lower. And I just secured those in place with a big old dab of hot glue over the stems. And then I followed that with just a piece of duct tape. So this is white duct tape. It's just what I have. Use whatever duct tape. And then I added a second row of flowers with the yellow, and I made those stand up a little bit higher in the back behind the pink. Now, obviously, depending on what kind of little metal embellishment you can find at Dollar Tree, you can use any color flowers you like, whatever you think looks nice. And so here I have this little flower-filled mason jar that I just added a bunch of hot glue to the back of that and centered that right on my pizza pan door hanger. And then I finished everything off because I saved that little welcome piece. I added a little bit of hot glue to the back of the W and the E, and I just hot glued that right in front, the center of the mason jar. And I really do love the color combination on this bright and cheerful spring door hanger. So I just grabbed a dollar store pizza pan, thrift store, Walmart, whatever, just something cheap. And I just started by painting it. So I only did one coat. This is Waverly chalk paint in the color Celery. By just doing one coat and like not priming it, it's not going to stick the best, but it doesn't really need to have like perfect coverage because most of it's going to be covered up anyway. But I just painted like half of the front and all of the back, just so it looked a little bit more finished. And then once that paint had dried, I grabbed a piece of a manila folder or a piece of scrap cardboard or whatever, and I traced half of the pizza pan onto the manila folder just with a pen. This is going to create our little pocket pouch for our flower basket. So from there, I just cut that out with my craft scissors, and I was ready to make my basket. And so for my basket, I went to Dollar Tree and I grabbed some hula skirts. So if you can't find hula skirts at your Dollar Tree, raffia works just as well. So grab 6 sections of the hula skirt and make a braid. So 2 sections in each third of the braid, right? 6 sections total. And just braid all the way down. I added masking tape at the top to hold it together, and then masking tape at the bottom to hold it together. And then continue that process throughout, like, I don't know, how many did I do here? 7 pieces of hula skirt, or 7 more braids of the hula skirt. And then cut them off, and then start hot gluing them in rows to your manila folder semicircle here. So just plenty of hot glue and just add it in rows. And then when I got to the end of the row, trimmed it off with scissors and repeated the process again. As I got closer to the bottom of my little basket, I was able to kind of double up my braid and use it twice. And I ended up using 1 full hula skirt for this project, plus a little bit of a second one. So you will need to buy 2 hula skirts if that's what you're able to find at Dollar Tree for this. Otherwise, like I said, raffia works just fine. Another helpful tip is when you're trimming the braid ends is to cut at an angle and try to match the curvature of the pizza pan. But here's my finished little basket base, and then it's time to make the handle. And so once again, we're going to braid here, but you need 3 lengths of braid to make an appropriate handle to match a dollar store pizza pan. So what I did is when I got kind of towards the end of my braid, I grabbed 2 more pieces of hula skirt raffia, and I hot glued it right into the braid there. Just a little dab of hot glue, and then add the 2 top sections of that hula skirt piece, and then keep braiding. And so just do it one at a time. So add 1 section, do a couple more crosses of the braid, add another section with hot glue, a couple more crosses of the braid, and add another section. So you're staggering where you're sneaking in and adding length to your hula skirt raffia pieces. But I did this through 2 times, so 3 braid lengths. And then from there, it's time to add flowers. So I got these little tulips at Michael's on clearance at the end of spring, but really any flower that you like would be a great option. I just kind of cut all the stems off with my heavy-duty craft scissors. And then I kind of visualized how I wanted everything to go, I decided I wanted the darker flowers in the front and the darker flowers in the back and the lighter flowers in the front. So I just grabbed some white duct tape and duct taped my flowers in place one row at a time. Keeping in mind you want to try to keep all that duct tape below where that basket base is going to cover. And this is why I only painted the top half of the pizza pan, because I wanted my duct tape to be sticking to just plain metal, not painted metal. So then from there, it's time to attach your basket base, and I wanted the best hold here just because there was a lot going on, so I used a combination of dabs of E6000 glue and hot glue. Hot glue gives you the immediate hold. E6000 glue makes sure this sucker is not falling apart anytime soon. And then I just used my long length of braided hula skirt, and I hot glued it across the left and the right side of my pizza pan, but then it left a little gap in the top, and so I just made another regular braid of hula skirt and hot glued that right over the top of the pizza pan. And then that was it. I was able to hang this hanger on just a regular hook on my wall, and it seems to be holding up well, but if you're concerned about the strength of that braided hanger, you could easily use a 3M command strip, like a Velcro command strip, on the back of the pizza pan and stick it against your door or your wall, and that makes the braided hanger a little less functional and more decorative. My dollar store always has a variety of plastic placemats, and that's where I drew my inspiration for this door hanger craft. I just started with a pizza pan and plain white Rust-Oleum chalk paint. You don't need to paint the whole pizza pan, just the edge of it. So I always base coat with white Rust-Oleum chalk paint. It's my favorite. You can see this can has seen a lot of crafts. There's like less than half left. And then I came back with this Waverly navy color chalk paint and a flat 1-inch paintbrush, and I went right over the dried white paint. You're probably going to have to do 2 coats to get complete coverage. But obviously pick a color that suits whatever placemat you choose. It doesn't have to be blue. And then I just made a template to cut out my placemat. So I used just a scrap piece of craft paper and a Sharpie to trace and make my template. I really do need to find a splatter screen, because people have commented that if you use a splatter screen from the kitchen aisle at Dollar Tree, you can trace that and it matches perfectly a pizza pan. I just haven't been able to find one, or I never remember to look when I'm at Dollar Tree. But you can also just make a template with paper and then trace that onto the placemat and then cut inside the Sharpie line so you don't have Sharpie showing, to make a circle out of your placemat. And then I just attached that placemat piece using Eileen's tacky glue. You could use E6000. Don't use hot glue. It'll probably melt the plastic. And then just smooth that right into place on the pizza pan. Don't worry if your edges don't look perfectly nice, because we're going to cover them. And a lot of times I like to use jute rope for this, but I wanted to do something a little different. So I grabbed 6 long pieces of twine and I braided it. So I did a knot at the end, taped it to my work surface, and then I began braiding. Someone commented on one of my videos. By the way, I love it when you guys share tips in the comments. It helps me as a crafter, and it's just really fun to learn new tips and tricks. So someone commented that if you weave underhand, not overhand, when you braid, it doesn't get as tangled. The jury's not quite back on this, but I think it helps when you braid like really long pieces. So I just braided all the way down and then cut that knot end off and hot glue it at the bottom, because we're going to cover it with some greenery. So start at the bottom and then hot glue all the way around the edge of the pizza pan, and that'll hide the seam between the placemat and the pizza pan edge. So I really like my fine point hot glue gun for stuff like this, because you can do just little dabs and little lines all the way around. And then I also braided another 6 pieces to make a hanger that I simply hot glued each end to the back of the pizza pan, easy peasy. Then to finish with embellishing, I always keep a stash of faux greenery in a little container in my craft room. So whatever faux greenery you have, and I also happen to randomly have 2 blue flowers left over from a different project. I think these were from when I did that bike wheel wreath a couple years ago. I don't know why I have 2 flowers remaining, but I used them up. So just hot glue all the greenery and flowers right at the base of the pizza pan there. And then to finish it off and cover those stems, like the base of the stems, I made a simple twine bow. So I wrapped twine around my fingers like 6 times, make a little figure 8, pinch it in the center, wrap it 5 or 6 times with another shorter piece of twine, and then secure it with a knot. So you have this little figure 8 looking thing there secured in the center, and then cut the loops, cut the ends. So it's just a scrappy little bundle of twine, and you can hot glue that right in the center there. And here's my cute little pizza pan door hanger. Perfect for spring, but I honestly think you could keep this up year round, no problem. And here are all 4 of my spring door hangers all together. I do hope you enjoyed watching these crafts come together. Until next time, happy making. Hey, if you enjoyed watching these crafts, give one of these videos a watch. Thanks so much.